When I was a little kid, I was overweight, much like I am now. And rather than playing sports like the other kids in my neighborhood, I like to sit in my room and imagine things and create stories. I used to even play with puppets to create those stories. I remember one time I even took a puppet stage that I had to school for show and tell, but on the way home, a bunch of bullies grabbed it from me and smashed it to the ground. I was, of course, hurt and devastated. And I didn't know why people didn't like me for just being who I was. I didn't know why I had to measure up to uh, what they thought the right type of person was. That just by being myself, I was a subject of bullying. But you know what? Instead of exploring that, instead of talking about my true feelings of hurtfulness and fear, I just kind of turned it into anger. Eventually, I became a bully. I started to defend those vulnerable feelings that I had by making fun of other people or picking on other people. I started to use sarcasm and hurtful sayings to keep people at bay because I was so afraid of being hurt. Eventually, the mask that I had of anger and rage to try to hide those hurt feelings, well, I almost became a slave to it. It became a quick default mechanism. You know, sometimes I wonder if that's what the Apostle Peter was like. You know, he grew up in a small town himself where the Bethsaida, where the Israelites were the minority. It was mostly a Greek community. I sometimes wonder if when he was growing up as a child, was he made fun of? Was he bullied? And rather than talking about his own feelings of fear and hurt, did he too turn it into rage? You know, the gospel is full of examples of Peter where he seems to kind of become overzealous, sometimes too emotional. Sometimes he kind of loses his cool. You know, when Jesus was taken away by the soldiers, it was Peter that pulled out the knife and chose violence as the first instinct. It was Jesus that also told Peter, put the knife down. Violence isn't the way. That's where he famously says, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And Jesus had a way of reading into people that he was talking to and being a little bit deeper than what we just see on the surface. I don't think he was just talking about the knife in Peter's hand, but he might have been also talking about the anger that Peter had and telling him, if you live by that anger and hatred, it will control you, much like it used to control me. I became so enraged, I started to see everybody as my enemy. I started to have resentments. But inside, there was still that child, imaginative, and wondering why people wouldn't like him for being just who he is. I wonder if Peter did have that type of feeling as well. I wonder if Peter grew up resentful and angry and so quick to judge, but also with a little child inside of him that just wanted to believe and wanted to be so much like Jesus and just wanted to be himself. You know, I think after Pentecost, when uh, they had that special spiritual moment, I think that might have been the time that Peter really embraced who he was and became such of the disciple that he was, such a teacher, such a leader of the early church, spreading the gospel even beyond his own ethnicity, opening the doors to other people, opening the doors to people that also at times had felt shut out. I know that's what happened to me. It was Christ that opened my eyes to allowing me to be who I was inside, to be that child. And yes, I still like to use my imagination. I still like to create stories, and I even still like to play with puppets sometimes. I'm very proud of who I am today. I'm very elated to be who I am today, knowing that I'm who I am because that's who God created. And you are who you are because that's who God created. And Jesus gave his life for all of us. Instead of giving into anger and hatred in the world of a world that had fallen prey to anger and violence, Jesus gave love. And he encourages us to do the same. Look back on your life of the times that you chose anger and judgment rather than just talking about what was underneath: fear, hurtfulness, inadequacy. And imagine yourself sharing your honest self with people. Imagine if we all did that. I think the world would be a little bit better place. I think we'd be less violent too. Rather than seeing everybody as a possible enemy, we might actually see everybody as a possible friend, or as Jesus liked to refer to them as, neighbors. Love God, love yourself. Truly, I mean it. Love yourself and love your neighbor. All neighbors.